Hi, everyone. I'm Shauna K. Lester, founder of Memorable Essay University Admissions and Career Consulting. I help people who are applying to college, to graduate school, and to jobs stand out and be chosen for their dream opportunity by working with them on their application strategy as well as on the application itself. And speaking of dream opportunities, today I'm joined by 2018 Schwarzman Scholar Stacey-Ann Pearson. Stacey is an alum of Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, where she majored in civil and environmental engineering. She's also an alum of Arden High School in Jamaica with I know, with a very impressive resume. She comes in as quite the heavy hitter, so I'll let her tell you some more about herself. And until she explains to you what the Schwarzman Scholarship Program is, I will just say that she didn't come packed with just academic work, but also with leadership and with lots of really cool volunteer activities that we're going to talk about for a bit. And if you can see in the background, in her background, she's joining us from St. Petersburg, Russia. So, good morning. Hi, Stacey. Or it's afternoon for you, right?
Yes, afternoon.
Okay.
Hi, Shauna.
Hi.
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Okay.
I'm down for speaking and sharing my experiences, so please hit me with all the questions you have.
Okay.
So, hi again, everyone. My name is Stacey-Ann Pearson. I obviously grew up in Jamaica, went to Arden High School. I took a gap year after Arden to do some volunteer work. I taught at Eltham High School, and I also had my own photography business to earn some money for school. And then I studied at Lafayette College, did civil engineering and economics. And then I realized that I wanted to do something else, so I tried risk management in the institutional securities division at Morgan Stanley. I did that for 2 years, and then I worked with Shauna K to apply for the Schwarzman Scholars program. And since then, I've been just doing lots of random crazy stuff, including taking a vacation in New York and going back home and working for NCB Jamaica for a month, and then traveling the Trans-Siberian, which is why I'm in Russia right now.
Okay, great. All right, so a technical thing. I can hear you, but I'm wondering if I can hear you even more clearly if the mic were closer to your mouth. Is that possible?
Yep.
All right, okay, great. Yeah, so thank you. That's a really great introduction. So could you tell us a little bit more about the Schwarzman Scholars Program and why you decided to apply?
Sure. So, other than the website definition, basically, Schwarzman is a program that's really trying to put together a class of global leaders, which basically just means a bunch of really, I don't want to say talented, but driven, driven young persons who want to understand China and use that understanding to revolutionize their career goal and to minimize the gap between China and where they want to work, which is usually their hometown or their home region. So, for example, for myself, they would be looking in me to use the Schwarzman Scholars program to learn how to minimize the gap between China and the Caribbean, and specifically China and Jamaica. So really, in a nutshell, that's really what the program is. If you think of it, it's mostly a very fancy networking event for future global leaders.
Okay.
That's the best way.
That's what it is. Well, I think it's more than a fancy networking event.
Yeah.
There will be a master's and all these
Yes.
wonderful things. And so the official definition from their website is that it's designed to prepare the next generation of global leaders. Schwarzman Scholars is the first scholarship created to respond to the geopolitical landscape of the 21st century. Whether in politics, business, or science, the success of future leaders around the world will depend upon an understanding of China's role in global trends. So I actually found this scholarship really interesting. You're the first person who, put me onto it. But I like that it's preempting where the world is going, because I love when people do that with their careers and with their studies. So it's preempting where things are going, and it's preparing people who can essentially work in that environment of
It's intense.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about some of the Schwarzman activities that you've done so far.
So many. So first of all, we found out, as you know, we found out from December. So it's been 8 months, just a little under 8 months that we've known. And throughout this entire 8 months, Schwartzman has been in contact with the scholars. They've put us in contact with the previous scholars. They put us in contact with each other. They put us in contact with our mentors. I mean, the communication level and the activity level is really high, even though I have not stepped foot on the campus yet.
Okay. And the campus of where? Let's just know where you're going.
So it's going to be at Tsinghua University, which is, I guess, 1-2 in China with Peking University or Peking University. And it's going to be at Schwarzman College. So it's a brand new college that was built by Financi guru Stephen Schwarzman. It's a brand new residential college, and it is residential. So we live with the professors, we live with the admin, and we live with each other. We eat, take classes, do activities all together in Schwarzman College.
All right.
So that will be our campus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you were saying, although you haven't stepped foot there yet, you've been doing.
Yeah. So we've had both assignments, webinars, recruitment events already. And I mean, it blows my mind. We have not stepped foot on campus yet. And we've had training webinars, so webinars for recruiters. So we've been contacted by company recruiters from consulting and banking. We've been consulted by the scholarship and recruitment office via video chat. So we've had our one-on-one consulting sessions for every single scholar. We've had 4 or 5 webinars about what to expect, planning, academics, living in China, etc. And then we've had tons of meetings in terms of scholar-to-scholar meetings. So let's say a couple of scholars are traveling to New York, they would hit up the Facebook group or the WeChat. WeChat is what we use in China.
Okay.
And say, hey, I'm going to be passing by New York. How many of you guys want to meet up? And then a bunch of people would just meet up. So we've had a couple of those in London and all over the US. I think there was one in somewhere else in Europe. I don't remember, but a few of them. And then obviously 16 other scholars and myself were going on this month-long trip.
Oh, it's a month-long trip. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Okay, so they're really focused on building community. They're serious about that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. And we are too, because this is like an optional. It's not mandatory.
Oh.
So we decided and planned together that we wanted to do this.
Okay, amazing. Okay, that's really cool. Because as you know, a lot of your success as a leader will depend on the network that you have access to. So that's great. So you'll be, at the end of the program, you'll have this master's degree. What are you going to focus on?
International studies.
Okay, in international studies, right?
Yes.
And then you'll also have access to this global network. That's really great. All right, so Stacey, when I look at your resume, I figure that I'm not going to take all of the time to read everything. But the leadership experience is quite heavy, including serving on the board of trustees at Lafayette College, on the development committee at Kings County Tennis League in Brooklyn, also as a resident life advisor at Lafayette College, and lots of very important things accomplished there. I think the most important leadership experience here that stands out is your role as founder of Behind Closed Doors at Lafayette College as well. But we won't delve into those because I feel as if most people who apply to the Schwarzman Scholars program will come with heavy leadership experiences, although yours are really great. But I wanted you to talk with us about your volunteer experiences, which are also many, because that's just how Stacey achieves. But if you could tell us about
I'm just kidding.
which is the one that means the most to you of these volunteer experiences.
Oh, that's a toughie.
And why,
of course. This? Yeah,
and why?
You're going to make me anger some people by picking my favorite one. I'm going to go with the diplomatic council.
Okay.
Something to me equal. No, I'm kidding. But
Okay.
are you saying what's most important to me, or what you thought was most important to Schwarzman? Because those are kind of
Yeah,
two
those are
different
probably
answers.
different things.
Yeah, two
All
different
right. Well, you could
answers.
tell me the both of them. That's fair.
Okay.
So tell me which volunteer activity means the most to you and which one you think was most important for nailing the Schwarzman.
Okay, so I think two of them were really the most important for me. The leadership ones, the Kings County Tennis League, serving as a volunteer director and on the development committee, and also the behind closed doors. So serving as a volunteer at KCTL, that was working with kids in public housing in Brooklyn, giving them access to tennis and educational opportunities and just mentorship in a way that they would not have had the opportunity to do, or the easy access to if the program didn't exist, or if I didn't participate in this program. So that really was very important to me because it was kids, it was Black and Hispanic, a small minority of Caucasian kids. So it was really important. I love working with young people. And also giving opportunities to young kids who wouldn't otherwise have that easy access to those opportunities. And then for behind closed doors, so that was me working with another Lafayette student to found a LGBT safe haven at Lafayette College. So in Pennsylvania and at Lafayette College, the atmosphere is changing, but there's still a need for closeted students to feel safe, especially trans students to feel safe. So we came together and decided to skip through a whole lot of bureaucratic barriers to create a safe space for LGBT kids who are closeted. So those two things really hit home for me, was really important. So those were my two favorites. In terms of what I thought was the heavy hitter for Schwarzman, so this was something I really wanted to point out, and it's in one of my 5 tips. So it really isn't about what the title is, but how passionate you are about the leadership activity. So Rob Garris, who is the current global director of admissions, he talks about this a lot. He says, look, don't try to put something like, let's say you're the president of French Club, but you don't only spend like an hour doing it and you haven't really accomplished anything. Don't put it, because they will see right through it. Let's say you are only a member or a very active member or the secretary of some other club, but you're super passionate about it and you're able to show the activities that you've done, the things you've accomplished, the things you've been able to get off the ground. Put that instead of the president of some defunct club that you just have as a fancy resume fluff. So in terms of like the heavy hitter, I would actually go with the behind closed doors instead of like the board of directors or any of the other ones, because that was the one I was most passionate about, and that was the one that I could speak most.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And from your statements as well, it's the one that you actually did the most to make it work.
Yes.
As in, I could feel all the work that went into this will survive,
It
which
will
is
survive.
great. I think leaders have to do that. Be like, I don't know what I'm going to do and how many times I have to negotiate, but it's going to work. Hopefully, they'll teach you about negotiation and then you can teach me.
Yes.
So I'll learn. We can
Actually,
skill swap.
we can.
Yes. Skillshare.
How to sell myself. That's what I'm switching it for. That's what I want to switch for. But they actually have already told us, yes, negotiation skills is part of one of our leadership classes.
Okay, amazing. All right, so then we can get into your 5 tips for people applying to the Schwarzman Scholars program this year and in the future. What must they do according to your experience? What do you think are the 5 things they must do to be successful?
Hire memorable SMs.
I didn't hear that. I missed it because it was okay.
Okay. Are you serious that you didn't hear?
I did not hear it at all.
Oh, I had said hire memorable essay.
All right, I know. Of course. Of course. All right.
Okay, 5 tips. Real simple. So number 1, first, answer the question of do I want to be a Schwarzman Scholar? And that's a really simple, easy step 1. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to answer that question. And in order for you to be able to answer that question, you have to know what the Schwarzman Scholars program is. So when I say scour the Schwarzman Scholars website, I mean read every single tab, every single post, watch every single video there is about Schwarzman Scholars. It's in its third year. It's not that hard.
It's not that much.
So read every single article you can find in the New York Times about Stephen Schwarzman and his program, about Rob Garris, about the scholars, about what things are offered, what they're looking for, because it puts into context what they are actually looking for and how they're going to pick the scholars. Because the process is so intense, they are super clear about what they're looking for, and they're trying to make it as seamless as possible because they know it's already a difficult process. So actually, they try to help you as much as possible. So they're frequently asked questions. They do multiple videos about what not to do and what to do. And it just really helps you in terms of when you're trying to explain what your goals are. It's so much easier when you have the framework in your mind of what they're looking for. I'd say it also helps to determine if this is the program for you, because if it's just another graduate program that you're looking for, that's good and fine, but you have to be able to connect it with your personal life. So that's the first step. Be able to answer, do I want to be a Schwarzman Scholar? So the second one is you have to be able to identify your type of leadership, and we just touched on that as well. So again, you don't have to have the stellar or stalwart, eye-catching title on your resume as a leadership position. They are really keyed in on how you as a leader operates within different settings. So if you're really not passionate about something, please, I'm begging you, do not put something that you're really passionate about. I'll give you an example. In one of the interviews that Rob Garris did at my school, I was helping him with an information session. Somebody asked, okay, so we have a couple more months left. What activities can I do? Yes. What activities can I do in order to be a standout? Rob Garris was brutal. He was like, well, there's not really anything you can do at this point. But what you really need to do is focus on what you've done and show us how you've been a leader in those activities that you're passionate about. And as an extension, what I would say is, if you don't have something that you're passionate about, do not apply this year. Take the next year and a half and find something that you're passionate about and do something in it. Because the application readers that they have is region specific and profession specific, so there's no way for you to completely the application. They will see right through it, and that's one of the biggest no-nos that all the admissions directors have alluded to. Do not make it like a what they call template application, because it just won't work.
Right.
So know your style of leadership and use something that you are passionate about. And again, it can be that you are just a member, a really passionate member, or a secretary of a club, or you, if you're working and you're a junior level position, it could be a project that you took on the initiative to do that no one else was doing.
Right.
Or, just stuff like that. It doesn't have to be, so even if you're working and you're in a junior position, it doesn't have to be that you founded this XYZ thing. You can actually use what you do in the workplace, but not things that other people have done, something that you have shown initiative to do something brand new or different.
Okay.
So that's the second advice. And that's the one that Rob Garris and the other directors, they really hone in on.
Stress it.
The third one is, which one is it? Oh, one is coming up. So the third one is write authentically. So don't try to write an application that you think Schwarzman would want. Write an application that is about you but then be able to tie it to how Schwarzman would benefit and how you would benefit. And of course, this is building off of number one. The only way you can be able to do this is if you read through the entire website and understood what the actual goal and mission, the mission of the program. So I can't stress how important that is. Please do not write to fit Schwarzman because they will also see through that. And then the fourth one, this one actually came through Shawnee with mine. This was a problem I had with mine. Ensure that you're very clear about how going to China and being a Schwarzman scholar plays into your career aspirations. So I put in my note, shout out to Shawnee. So if you're looking to apply to this scholarship, you're clearly a talented individual, you're special, you're a high achiever. I mean, that's how talented even the pool of applicants are.
Right.
But that also means that you are more than likely really good at many different things. This is not the place to put all those things on display. I just remember the very first essay I sent Shawnee, and she was like, look, I need you to do this over.
Focus.
Like, scrap this whole thing. So I was shocked, first of all, when she was like, scrap it. I'm like, excuse me.
I'm
This is my best. Right. This is my best essay. Like, this is my best work. But after digesting about maybe an hour after the tears and everything, after digesting the comments and feedback she gave me, she was absolutely right. And it's something that I've heard repeated over and over. Look, you have to focus on a specific thing, and then you can build out from there. But one of the biggest things that Schwarzman is really looking for is what your ties are to China. And even if you don't have ties, how will going to China really affect your career aspirations? They're not trying to get people who are just looking for a free graduate school opportunity, which is still awesome, but you have to be able to show, you have to be able to show how going to China and using the Schwarzman Scholars program will change not only your life, but the life of your region. What are you going to do to narrow that gap between China and where you're from? So that's really super important because that comes out in all the essays, literally every essay, and it comes out in the interview.
That's why it exists. That's the purpose of the program.
Yeah,
so you have to match their purpose and not, as you said, just be trying to get. Yes. Not you weren't trying to get a free ride, but I mean, you needed to show it more about why.
And even though it was in my head, very clear, I wasn't able to succinctly communicate that. And it showed in that first essay, that first draft that I had. Again, shameless plug for him. But the last one I have is review, and practice. Especially if you are out of school for a couple of years, or if you're an introvert, or if you're an anxious individual. It really helps to practice and review. So for what I mean by review is just have your friends read it, have Shawnee read it, have a professor, have just multiple people read it, because you're so in the trenches with your essay. Sometimes you miss the bigger point, and sometimes what you're actually trying to communicate is completely lost because you've done so many drafts. So I highly recommend having multiple people read it, working with a consultant, or having professors read. Actually, I am not too strong on the professors because sometimes professors will read it once and be like, "Oh yeah, this is fabulous." Having someone who will really be able to give you in detail feedback and just criticize the heck out of your essay is really helpful. Yes, that's
analyze. Why do we have to say criticize? Analyze, because we're trying to make you win. So yes.
Criticize.
All right.
And then the last one is practice, the review and practice. So practice this is assuming that you get through to the interview round. Ensure that you go through your resume, go through a couple points, because the panel is an 8-on-1 panel. It's intense, and you can't really, the people who you are going to be interviewing with are actually people who are in your region or they're in your field. or the field that you want to go into. So there is absolutely no possibility of you making something up on the spot and someone not catching it, because there are 8 people.
Right.
So definitely practice. Read up on current events. Read up on events in your region, in your area, and definitely know about China and how it's affecting where you are. But yeah, those are my 5 must-dos in order to.
All right, thank you. And could you just say them again in like a couple seconds?
Yes, I can do that. So answer why you want to be a Schwarzman Scholar, aka scour the website and every single article you can find. Number 2, identify your type of leadership and really focus on your type of leadership, not just the fancy titles. Number 3, write authentically about you. So don't write an application to match Schwarzman, but write about you and then find the tie to Schwarzman. Number 4 is ensure that you're very clear about how going to China is going to affect your career aspirations and how you are going to affect Schwarzman Scholars. I know that's a difficult thing or concept to wrap your head around, but you have to think about it. If you need to spend a week to do it, spend the week to do it. It's so worth it. And then the last is review and practice.
Okay, great. And something else that you did with your application, because when I first met you, of course, now I know differently. But when I first met you, I thought, what a serious individual. Like, she's serious. She's so exacting. Stacey talks about me criticizing her application, but this is how it started. Well, actually, I learned a business lesson from this. She did not send me her entire application. I don't even remember what you sent me now, but it was like a sample. And I could tell she was testing. She didn't have to say it, but it was so clear. This is a test. I want to see what you will do with my application. So after that first round, on that first week, then the application just started coming. I said, wow, this is one serious woman. So actually now with people, I'm like, Shauna K, why do you give them all this money for, do it Stacey style, give them a slice of the pie and be like, show me how good you are, then I'll buy the whole thing. But what I want to say is that before knowing you more, I was like, oh my goodness, so serious. But in the end, I think the application ended up really being balanced. So you were super serious in some ways, or just very accomplished. Then you also had some of those essays or some of those statements that were just fun, and they were cute, and they were little Stacey. So definitely showed you as a person who we wanted, in the room. Like, I would have wanted to talk with you. I could feel that from your application. I was like, they're going to want to talk to her because she's heavy hitter and she's also goofy, and there was a really good balance. So
nice.
So one last quick question, because when we were done with the application, again linked to Stacey's seriousness of just, I want this, I could not look at a computer for 2 days. And so I am wondering, I did not. I was just like, no computer screens, can't look at anything. How did you do it as a person who was actually writing all of that and the person who was practicing? How did you pace the application to get it in on time? Because it's just so rigorous.
Okay, so everyone, clearly Shauna K was saying I was a nightmare of a client.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It was a heavy application. It's a big one, so.
Sure. Okay, so let me just put this into context. So the application is, someone summarized it here. But yeah, it was an intense application. So first of all, I thought about it it's due in September, and I started thinking about it in April. So obviously that's a very long time. So here it is. So as expected for a scholarship of this significance, the admissions process to become a Schwarzman Scholar is arduous. In addition to a resume of up to 2 pages, must submit 4 letters of recommendations, 3 long essays, a short 100-word essay, and a 1-minute video introducing themselves. And after you get through that, then you go through a half a day of interviews, which is a lunch interview, a group exercise, and then an 8-on-1 half-an-hour interview. So yeah, it was intense. So like I said, so April, May, June, July, August. So it was basically a 5.5 month thinking process for me. A lot of people start a lot later than that, and if you're listening to this and you're applying in a couple weeks, then obviously you have less time. But 3 months of those was really thinking about my career aspirations and whether or not I wanted to apply to this program. So by the time, it was April, May, June, so by the time June rolled around, which was when I started reaching out to my recommenders, I was really able to hammer out what it was that I needed them to do and what it was that I was going to do as a Schwarzman scholar. And that was really helpful to them because they could write with clarity and they could write to fill each individual gap that I needed to fill. So one thing that I was very particular about was going through the entire website and finding out what the criteria was that they were scoring people on and ensured that I hit each and every single box. So with the recommenders, they recommended, having someone talk about your leadership, someone talking about your personality, and someone talking about XYZ. So I actually divided up my recommenders and matched with one with best to speak about what, and only assigned them to specific things that they needed to speak to me about. And so that precision with which I approach my recommenders is what I approach the rest of the application for. Now that you've said it, yes, it was a test. I didn't think of it as a test, but I was really trying to find someone who would be able to critique me and criticize me and not just go with, oh, this was wonderful type of feedback. So that was also part of it, was just finding the right people to work with in order to assist me, because I knew that this was a huge application and I needed a lot of plan time. If you're not really a planner, I would definitely suggest at least taking half an hour or 1 hour each day that you're working on the application to just write out a map of what you have to do and what you're trying to prove. And then just match it with what Schwarzman Scholars, what the program is looking for. Because I'm telling you, it's so easy as high achievers to miss the mark completely because you want to communicate all the things that you've accomplished, and then you just don't match what they're looking for. I've seen a couple of people who have applied, brilliant people, but they just miss the mark in terms of looking at what Schwarzman is looking for and what they could do with the program. So that part of it, a lot of it was planning. I'm a planner. But for people who don't plan, it's so worth it to just map out something, even if you just spend 1 hour. Just map out very clearly how Schwarzman would help you with your career goals.
Okay.
That's all I got. Yeah. It was a 5.5-month process for me.
That's long, but I really do like that you spent so much of the time planning in the pre-work, because I try explaining that to people that I'm fine with coming in at the end of any process, but the real value is doing that. I mean, you were able to do that by yourself, like doing the planning, the matching, the who will write about this and that. But that's where the value is. And then the actual application, the strategy, right? And then the application itself is a whole other thing. Not easy,
I
but
know.
it's two different worlds. They both have their value. They're both required, but you just can't jump into application without doing that pre-work.
Especially this one, because it's not even worth it. Like, if you haven't even done it, wait till next year. Because it won't be worth the heartache. I'm telling you, it's blood, sweat, and tears. 4 recommendations. First of all, you don't even want to approach 4 recommenders with not your best application, because I mean, let's be honest, that's embarrassing if you put forth that 4 recommendations and then have to go back and say, look, this is what I want. And a lot of people apply again, but look, you have to be very deliberate about what you want and what Schwarzman is able to give you. And that needs to be embodied in your entire application. So your recommendation can be disconnected from your application, which is disconnected from your video, which is disconnected from your interview. First it will work.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So no shame to the reapplicants, of course. But if you're doing it, just come. Come.
No, you have to come hard. And if you're not going to come hard, just wait till
don't bother.
Wait till next year.
Okay. Well, Stacey, I want to congratulate you for coming hard and serious and, for nailing this. And of course, I'm just so happy for you. So I'll give you a virtual clap, and everyone who watches this can, do a round of applause. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Can give Stacey a round of applause. She's a 2018 Schwarzman Scholar. So really looking forward to following your journey on Insta and checking in with you and just, learning from you. Because as goofy as you're being, we all know that you're going to do some very serious and important work for all of our lives. So yes. All right, Stacey. So thank you. How do you say goodbye in Russian? Do you know?
You put me on the spot. All I know is thank you, spasiba. Good morning
Spasiba.
and cheers, of course. And
Cheers. Oh, okay.
Yeah, diva.
Okay.
Order a beer, but I don't know what's goodbye.
Okay.
First of all, a lot of Russians, they just want you to go away, so it's more like
I got you.
It's been
Okay.
interesting.
All right. All right. Well, I actually could ask you a lot more questions, but we're gonna end here. And maybe we can check in some other time about how it's going and what you hope to do at the end of the program. But what you hope to do is very, Jamaica, China specific. So I think this is broader and will be helpful to people who are applying to the program this year. All right. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Shanika.
All right. And we'll talk.